Stretching across 2,000 miles of untamed mountain country, from Alabama to Tennessee to Kentucky and beyond, the vast woods of Appalachia were once described by the poet Robert Frost as lovely, dark, and deep, known for its bluegrass banjo and apple stack pie. From the outside, time appears to be standing still here, but it's actually passing all too fast. Because beneath this tranquil beauty, Appalachia is home to the abandoned. Empty streets, boarded up storefronts, burnt out collapsing factories. Walking through the streets here, you can actually feel the despair. Some say the American dream got lost on the way to Appalachia. Maybe they're right, because the folks living here have a kind of life we should all hope to never know. They have no money, they have no support, and they have no prospects. Their kids go hungry every day. They're often forced to scrape by on peanut butter and crackers. Drug and alcohol addiction have ravaged these communities. And when you talk to these forgotten souls, it's easy to understand why. They're trapped in poverty. They're stuck in an endless limbo. Walk the streets and you'll see some strange things in this abandoned corner of America, like this eerie annual ritual. On the outskirts of West Virginia, thousands of locals wait in an empty field in the middle of the night. They arrive by the carload, one after another, at a seeming never-ending stream, drawn forward as if by some invisible force. There's the buzz of anticipation in the air, but they're not here for a concert or a county fair. Nope, they're on this strange pilgrimage to see a dentist. As one volunteer says, a lot of the families in this area are working class, and they're struggling to choose between paying for medicine that can save their life or groceries for that week. People actually sleep in the rain for fear of losing their spot here. It's like a scene from a war zone or a refugee camp. But it's actually happening right here in America, supposedly the richest country in the world. What's unfolding right now across the poverty belt of America is a black stain in our nation. It's a tragedy that's been brushed under the rug by our political elites who care more for the welfare of foreigners than the suffering of our own people. Well, the political class would do well to remember that we owe everything to these forgotten heroes. For over a century, the men and women of these abandoned towns fueled our prosperity and economic growth. They kept our lights on. They kept our homes warm. They gave us access to cheap, abundant energy. And they did it by digging this stuff out of the ground by the truckload. As far back as 1750, armies of men and women carried their picks and buckets deep into the earth to extract billions of tons of coal. These unsung heroes crawled through scorching, dust-filled tunnels so that America could flourish. And without their back-breaking work, America as we know it wouldn't exist. The railroad boom would have never happened. Our steamships would have never traversed the world. Our factories would have never turned out cars, forged steel, or mass-produced food. As George Orwell puts it, our civilization is founded on coal more completely than one realizes until one stops to think about it. The machines that keep us alive and the machines that make machines are all directly or indirectly dependent upon coal. In the metabolism of the Western world, the coal miner is second in importance only to the man who plows the soil. Alongside oil, it was coal that built America. But in these days, the mines are all but gone. One by one, our coal plants are being retired, with more than 1,000 closing in the last 2 decades alone. The workers, they've been cast aside, and the towns I've shown you, they're abandoned, and they've been left to die. But the mines aren't being shut because we've run out of coal. Far from it. America has the largest coal reserves in the world, more than 250 billion tons of proved reserves, enough to power the country for at least the next 200 years. So we're not out of coal. Why are we closing the mines? Well, it's a much stranger reason. Climate hysteria. It started with President Obama when he waged a war on coal and forced through legislation that made it practically illegal to build new mines. As he smugly declared, if someone wants to build a new coal-fired power plant, they can, but it will bankrupt them because they will be charged a huge sum for all the greenhouse gas that's being emitted. President Biden picked up the mantle with his Beyond Carbon plan and condemned another 22 coal plants to death and put policies in place to close every single one by 2030. Why? Because the establishment and their infinite wisdom has decided that coal is bad. Don't concern yourself with its effectiveness, how cheap it is to produce, or the billions of dollars we make exporting it. It's just too damn dirty for our political class. Over the last few years, the climate hysteria has reached such a fever pitch that for the first time in history, countries have started deliberately reducing their energy prosperity. It sounds insane to say that out loud, but it's the perfect encapsulation of how far we have all fallen. Nations are supposed to protect and treasure their energy resources. Throughout all of civilization, from the Greeks to the Romans to the British Empire, early America, and the Saudis today, the story is the same. Energy means power and prosperity. That's because energy fuels everything, from agriculture to construction to medical research to space exploration, and of course, everything in between. Yet at a time when we need cheap, efficient energy more than ever before, we've been turning our back on the near endless energy reserves that are just a pick and shovel away. Too bad for those dirt-poor towns of Appalachia. Too bad for the millions of forgotten Americans who live there. Too bad for the hundreds of millions of people struggling financially as inflation has decimated their savings, their quality of life, and their hope of a future prosperity. It's tragic. A symbol of just how America has lost its way. And it might leave you despondent for our nation's future. I understand, I really do. And when you see facts laid bare like this, it's completely natural to feel pessimistic, to believe things will never get any better. However, even as our leaders have turned their backs on coal, and even though it looks like our economy, our society, and our cultural fabric is coming apart at the seams, there's actually a lot of good news right on the horizon. And there's a very powerful reason to be optimistic about our future and Appalachia. I believe we are all about to get an enormous second chance. As you discover, there is a resurrection of our energy fortunes that is going to transform the future of America and the future of your finances forever. It doesn't matter whether it's Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or even RFK Jr. who wins the presidency. This transformation is already underway. And in a strange twist of fate, it's all happening right there in the dying coal towns of Appalachia. My name, by the way, is Porter Stansberry. I'm the founder and CEO of the world's largest independent financial research firm. For the past 30 years, we've been on the frontier of the financial markets, accurately predicting many of the world's most important economic stories. The 1997 emerging market collapse, the Japanese 1998 banking crisis, the dot-com blow-ups of the 2000s, the bankruptcy of General Motors, and the 2008 financial crisis, along with the fall of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. I could go on and on with dozens of our examples. And while our financial analysis is among the best in the world, there's one area that no other firm can compete with us on, and that's in our understanding of the global energy markets. For years, my partners and I have built an unassailable reputation in predicting the major shifts and opportunities in the global energy markets. Most famously, back in 2010, I saw the truth about so-called peak oil. At the time, you may remember, all the world's experts were warning that we were going to run out of fossil fuels and that oil would soon cost $200 a barrel. As Robert Ayers, one of America's most respected economists and scientists, wrote at the time, no one is questioning the fact that we will have either reached or will soon reach peak oil. Well, he was dead wrong, and I questioned it, and I was right. I did so because I saw an entirely different story emerging. I saw that thanks to new shale drilling technology, America wasn't out of oil. America was on the cusp of an unprecedented boom in oil and gas production. I even went so far as to say that America would become one of the world's largest exporters of cheap shale oil and gas. And at the time, I was laughed at for my prediction. But what happened next? Oil prices plunged from over $100 a barrel in 2011 to under $30 a barrel by 2016. Why? Well, because oil production doubled between 2011 and 2022. And we continue to uncover vast new reserves of oil and gas. So much so that we have actually become the largest producer in the world, with companies like Exxon, ConocoPhillips, and Cheniere Energy among the best performers of the last decade. Now I'm making another major energy prediction, one that I fully expect will be laughed at and scolded by the mainstream financial press, at least initially. You see, I believe and have evidence to prove that the forgotten coal towns of Appalachia will be ground zero for America's next major energy boom. And it involves the establishment's most hated energy resource, coal. While this might sound crazy, as you're about to see, what's happening underneath the mountains of Appalachia are going to forever transform America. The power shift that's emerging in these abandoned coal towns is among the most incredible economic stories you will ever hear, and it's one that I believe is going to alter the course of American history. For those who understand this shift that's taking place right now and invest in it early, this could be among the most lucrative opportunities of your entire life. It's being heralded as the only solution to the energy crisis, the answer to our energy woes. It's a $10 trillion energy fix. And while you've likely never heard of this story, I'm not the only investor who has spotted what's going on. Billions of dollars are quietly being deployed right now from the likes of billionaires such as Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Sam Altman, Peter Thiel, and even Warren Buffett. They know, as I do, that America sits on the cusp of a new energy revival, a revival that's going to create thousands of new high-paying jobs and revitalize the poverty belt of America. This will save our collapsing power grid and provide practically limitless energy for decades to come. It's all happening in the last place you'd ever expect, rural Appalachia. To understand this phenomena, take a look at this map. It shows every single coal plant in the country. What you're seeing represents billions of dollars worth of energy infrastructure built over the last 200 years. There are 548 coal mines dotted all over the land, with most of them running through the peaks and valleys of the Appalachian hollers. Not long ago, these coal plants were firing on all cylinders. The power that flowed from these mountains met more than half of America's energy needs, but now, after the war on coal, only a handful remain online. The result? Well, you know what's happened. Soaring energy costs, the loss of our energy independence. But the real hardship has been felt by the communities that were built around these plants, and the men, women, and children our political class has cast aside because they decided that coal is evil. That is all about to change. Thanks to a new technological breakthrough, there's going to be a resurrection in the abandoned hollers of Appalachia, one that will be ground zero for a new era of wealth creation. I'm talking about as much as $275 million in annual economic activity being generated for these abandoned townships. Thousands of new jobs being created, jobs that pay double what these laid-off coal workers were earning before. This is a second coming that will lift these towns out of poverty, restore jobs, build wealth, and pride in the millions of people who work coast to coast, forming a new energy network that's greater even than the glory days of coal. And this isn't empty speculation. It's all direct from the Department of Energy. You see, these retired coal plants are the critical part of a new energy shift that's going to transform our entire energy grid. How? By converting these shuttered coal plants to harness a new type of power. Pound for pound, this new energy source generates as much as 1 million times more power than any other resource. It's 100% clean, carbon-free, and causes no damage at all to the environment. And there's enough easily attainable reserves to power America for hundreds of years in the future. And a strange twist of fate, these abandoned coal towns and these coal plants will play the essential role in the future of this energy source. Up and down our country, preparations are underway right now to integrate this vastly superior power source into our grid by converting America's abandoned coal mines. Warren Buffett and Bill Gates have teamed up to convert a retired coal facility in Wyoming. Arizona, Colorado, Maryland, Montana, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Utah, West Virginia, and Wisconsin are also planning to convert their closed coal plants. The Department of Energy has directed $6 billion to making a grid-wide energy switch a reality. Kentucky just passed new laws to bring this power pivot to their state, so they won't be left behind. Illinois just signed new bills to accommodate this new fuel source. America is quietly planning to bring this vastly more potent form of energy to every town, home, and business in the country, and it all starts in the abandoned towns of Appalachia. As Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin says, this will make Virginia energy more reliable, affordable, and clean while transforming Southwest Virginia into a hub for innovation. Hailed as a miraculous technology, we're talking about the rollout of a practically unlimited and clean source of power that's going to transform our country and create one of the greatest long-term investment opportunities over the last decade. As commodity giant Trafigura says, this coming energy shift is Wall Street's next big trade, and we're already seeing the companies leading the field surging in value. Constellation Energy, Deep Yellow, Paladin Energy, Cameco, Boss Energy, and NextGen Energy. They're all up 2x, 3x, even 4x, with Barron's reporting they are soaring at NVIDIA-like rates. Yet they have been almost completely overlooked by the majority of people who are off chasing the latest meme stock fad. Most folks are blind to the fact that one of the greatest financial trends ever is emerging right now in America. And while I'm not recommending any of those companies, the vast sums of money flowing into them from BlackRock, Morgan Stanley, Vanguard, and other Wall Street juggernauts tells you that something major is brewing. After years of telling us the future is green, after endlessly lecturing us on the evils of fossil fuels, after ignoring an ever-mounting pile of contrary evidence, reality is finally settling in for the establishment, and they're waking up to the fact that wind, solar, and other renewables simply cannot replace fossil fuels. Their delusions are withering in the face of hard science, because as my friend Doomberg says, in the battle between physics and platitudes, physics is undefeated. Consider the fact that energy costs have almost doubled since renewables were introduced into our power grid, or that blackouts are becoming a regular occurrence in America, with their number increasing in near perfect correlation with the green energy transition, or that California, the solar farm capital of America, is begging residents to ration their energy use in order to prevent widespread rolling blackouts, or that the North American Electric Reliability Corp says our grid is so weak that we are under increasing threat of energy rationing. This would all be laughable if it wasn't so serious. We have one of the most resource-rich countries in the world, with everything that we need to meet our energy demands for centuries to come. But our political establishment has slaughtered this abundant source of human prosperity for regressive power sources like wind and solar that cripple our future. You see, ever since humans started burning wood for energy, the return on our energy investment, known as EROI, has always improved through time. Over thousands of years, we've gone from wood to coal to oil and gas. And with each step forward, the EROI, the return on our energy investment, has improved with less energy investment required to provide more and more cheap energy. Well, that all changed recently. Climate alarmism and the adoption of renewables reversed the energy return on energy investment formula. Plugging these terrible power sources into the grid has seen overall energy costs shoot up and energy reliability and efficiency go down. As economist Dr. Lars Schrinkow bluntly puts it, the West's recent energy policy is a step backward in history and risks energy starvation. Until now, our leaders have been unwilling to face these facts. They've kept their heads buried in the sand, refusing to accept economic and physical reality. Because while their regressive energy policies have crushed the average American's prosperity, it didn't impact them. But now that's finally changing. For years, the powers that be were happy for you to foot the bill for their green energy boondoggles. But now that is all changing. For years, the powers that be were happy for you to foot the bill for their green energy boondoggles. But all of a sudden, generating enormous amounts of reliable power has become a matter of national security and economic survival. You see, the liberals in Washington have spent the last 50 years parroting apocalyptic prophecies about fossil fuels, but none of them have come true. They've gaslit the American public into thinking that using our own natural resources to heat our homes and power our factories is somehow morally wrong. Of course, if you support renewables, then you're the good guy. But if you point out their inherent flaws, then you're a bad guy. Meanwhile, our geopolitical rivals don't give a damn about any of that. They may pay lip service to the religion of climate change, but their actions tell you what they really think about energy. Case in point, while we've been shuttering our coal plants, China has been opening 2 new coal facilities every single week. In fact, China is by far the largest producer of coal. It hit a record high output just last year. And Russia's drilling more oil now than at any time in the last 40 years. So, say what you will about our political rivals, they at least have their priorities straight when it comes to energy. They understand how connected energy is to prosperity and power, and they're laughing at our absurd energy policies. And the chickens are coming home to roost. The disastrous energy policy of our country over the last few decades now threatens the very future of our country. We risk being left behind as one of the greatest technological booms in history threatens to overrun our grid. There's no going back because Pandora's box is wide open. Whatever you think about the rise of artificial intelligence, after decades of research, advancements, and hype, this is the year that AI finally has become real. Whether you think it's the greatest tool humanity has ever conceived of, or the greatest threat, what is undeniable is that AI has arrived. Within the blink of an eye, it swept into every facet of our personal and professional lives. ChatGPT is the fastest growing technology of all time. AI is being implemented in almost every sector of the economy. The market for AI is projected to grow at a staggering 120% year over year. And by next year, it's estimated that 97 million people will be working in the sector. But what you don't hear about is the incredible energy demands of AI. Consider this chart. It shows how the processing power required to train and develop AI systems has increased since the 1950s. As you can see, for decades, the power demands closely followed Moore's law, doubling roughly every 20 months. However, Moore's law was shattered in 2010, and the processing power required to train AI went from doubling every 20 months to doubling every 6 months. To put this in perspective, that is a 16 trillion % increase over the last 13 years alone. And this exponential growth shows absolutely no sign of slowing down. In fact, Epoch AI, a research institute, warns the amount of computing power developers use to train their systems is likely to continue increasing at its current accelerated rate. That means in 1 year, the amount of computing power required to train AI systems will increase by 300%, in 3 years by 6,300%, and in 5 years by a staggering 100,000%. And this is where the problem lies. You see, operating and developing new AI systems requires unparalleled energy demand. Energy demands we cannot currently meet. Case in point, ChatGPT alone already receives an average of 10 million queries per day. Research from the University of Washington shows it costs around 1 gigawatt hour of energy to answer these queries. That's about 10 times the power demands of a regular Google search. Put another way, 1 gigawatt hour of energy is roughly the same energy consumed by 33,000 households. And that's just for one AI program. At scale, the problems are far worse. As MIT Technology Review exposed, training a single AI model can emit as much carbon as 5 cars in their lifetimes. That's not operating, that's just development. And right now, thousands upon thousands of AI models are being trained every single day. That's why by 2027, AI servers are predicted to consume as much as 134 terawatt hours annually. In other words, in less than 3 years, AI will have the same annual energy consumption as entire countries like Argentina, the Netherlands, and Sweden. And by 2030, AI alone could demand 25% of America's energy grid. This explosion in energy requirement is simply not sustainable, especially when AI adoption is at maybe 1% of where we're going to be in just a few years. For AI to penetrate to 10% or 20% of the market, we will see unprecedented amounts of energy demand. Those on the frontier of the artificial intelligence industry are aware of the problem, and they have started to sound the alarm. Elon Musk predicts that we soon won't have enough electricity, and that by 2045, the power demand in the U.S. will have tripled from current levels. Sam Altman says an energy breakthrough is necessary for future AI. Mark Zuckerberg warns our energy constraints are holding back AI. Or as the Washington Post bluntly puts it, amid explosive AI energy demand, America is running out of power. These guys know, as I do, that unless the insatiable energy demands of artificial intelligence are met, the industry will never go mainstream. Right now, fossil fuels are the primary energy source that's being used to train and operate AI systems. And to be fair, they could continue to meet the growing energy demands of AI. But that would require the woke Silicon Valley tech companies and progressive politicians to turn their back on the religion of climate change. And with the activists already up in arms about the environmental impact of artificial intelligence, this is untenable to the ruling class. So, they'll argue that renewables like wind and solar should be used to meet the energy demands of AI. But I've already shown you, the reality is that there is zero chance of renewables producing enough low-cost energy to meet AI's needs. They can barely keep the lights on in America as it is. Just consider the projected energy consumption of AI we discussed a moment ago, 134 terawatt hours annually. To generate this amount of energy from wind power alone would require 17,000 new wind turbines. That would take up roughly 2,200 square kilometers. That's about 1.5 times the size of London, a city of 9 million people. And that's assuming that all of the energy went to AI. Throw in the fact that your average wind turbine lasts just 20 years and requires huge amounts of iron, steel, copper, plastic, and aluminum. And it's obvious to me and anyone else who studies the matter that renewables like wind, solar, and hydro will never meet the energy demands of AI. It's a physical impossibility. This has created a really unique situation because the economic, social, and geopolitical incentives behind AI are far too powerful to be stopped. Even the Biden administration is not incompetent enough, we think, to halt the progress on AI development and cede power to our rivals like China and Russia. However, for artificial intelligence development to continue and reach its full potential, vast amounts of new energy are going to be required. And artificial intelligence is just one of the new power-intensive technologies erupting. Throw in the rollout of electric vehicles, Bitcoin mining, other cryptocurrencies, robotics, and quantum computers, and the energy problems we face are even greater than what I've shared with you here. Fortunately, there is a solution. It's one that's been called the only solution. It's a solution that could meet America's energy needs no matter how much they grow, for decades to come, and in the process, resurrect the forgotten coal towns that have been left for dead in the switch to renewable energy. America has a long history of creating miracles on demand. When our cities were bathed in shadow, we created the light bulb. When millions of people were dying of polio, we created a vaccine. When the entire planet was under the threat of Nazi rule, we created the most powerful weapon the world had ever seen. Over the last century, American ingenuity has paved the future, and the same ingenuity is about to solve the biggest problem we face today, the insatiable energy demands of artificial intelligence. The solution lies in our past and the abandoned coal mines of Appalachia. A new study from the Department of Energy reveals that 80% of these coal plants could be converted to exploit the most powerful form of power known to mankind. The only energy source that can sustainably meet our insatiable power demands. Just one pellet of this fuel, about the size of your fingertip, can produce the same amount of energy as 1 ton of coal, or 149 gallons of oil, or 17,000 cubic square feet of gas, or more than 7,000 solar panels if renewables is your thing, all while producing zero emissions. I'm talking, as you probably have guessed, about uranium. However, uranium and nuclear energy alone aren't the answer to the energy demands of artificial intelligence. That's why I'm not telling you to rush out and buy uranium mining stocks or a nuclear energy ETF. You see, despite uranium and nuclear energy's resurgence in popularity, it's not enough to solve our vast energy needs. That's because it takes years and tens of billions of dollars to build a single nuclear power plant. And after decades of propaganda about the evils of nuclear energy, we have fallen far behind our geopolitical rivals when it comes to using nuclear power. Now, the government is trying to play catch-up and is attempting to reintroduce nuclear power as soon as possible. The U.S. Senate recently passed the ADVANCE Act with the stated mission of boosting development and deployment of new nuclear technologies, incentivizing expansion in America, and helping to position the U.S. as the world's leader in nuclear energy. This is only one of the bills to make it through both Congress and the Senate with bipartisan support, which highlights the importance of nuclear energy for the whole country. And after years of condemning nuclear power, the Department of Energy has now pronounced that nuclear power is intrinsically tied to national security. What a surprise. It's why abandoned uranium mines like this one in Utah are starting production again. It's why over $3 billion of government funding is being issued to reignite our domestic nuclear fuel industry. It's why abandoned nuclear plants like the Palisades in Michigan are being turned back on. All of this is a step in the right direction, there's no question. But it's not enough to solve all of our unparalleled energy demands. Neither is building brand new nuclear power plants, at least not in the short term. Consider the story of Plant Vogeltel in Waynesboro, Georgia. It will be America's first new nuclear plant since the 1990s. The only problem? It took 15 years to build and cost more than $30 billion. Don't get me wrong, this is a massive milestone for Waynesboro and the county with the plant that's projected to power 500,000 homes for the next 60 to 80 years. But Plant Vogeltel's story exposes a brutal truth. Building new nuclear power plants is incredibly expensive and time-consuming, with the average time to construct a new nuclear power plant of at least 10 years. In other words, although we urgently need the cheap and clean energy nuclear power provides, it will take decades and tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars to build out the necessary infrastructure. But fortunately, a new type of nuclear energy has been developed. A new technology was just approved by the U.S. government. It allows us to plug nuclear energy directly into the power grid easily, quickly, and without spending years and billions of dollars to develop new power plants or grid infrastructure. This is a breakthrough innovation that will allow America to build out hundreds, if not thousands, of nuclear power plants all across the country at a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time and at a fraction of the size. I'm talking about SMRs, small modular reactors. An SMR is a new type of nuclear reactor that produces nuclear energy but is much smaller than a typical reactor. Think of it more like an atomic battery, a tiny version of a traditional nuclear plant that produces enormous amounts of clean and reliable energy. And here's the truly miraculous part. These SMRs can be deployed on top of closed coal plants. That's right. Those abandoned coal mines all across the hollers can be resurrected by retrofitting small modular reactors on their graves. And because the existing infrastructure is already in place, the energy generated from these SMRs can flow directly into the grid without massive multi-year infrastructure builds. It's an elegant solution, and it's one that could trigger an economic revival for those forgotten towns. While you've probably never heard this story, it's actually already underway all across America, and it promises to reshape our economy and our country in remarkable new ways. In Wyoming, Bill Gates is converting a retired coal facility with a new nuclear plant projected to bring 2,000 jobs to the region. And in Kentucky, lawmakers have passed a landmark bill to work to fully unlock the potential of nuclear energy. In Colorado, a new bill is being pushed by Senator Larry Liston to have nuclear energy classified as clean energy, just like wind, solar, and hydro. In addition to that new bill, XL Energy is proposing to convert a coal mine in Pueblo, Colorado into a nuclear plant, with the plant projected to create hundreds of thousands of jobs, boost tax revenue, and earn the small community around $100 million a year. In North Carolina, Duke Energy is seeking approval to turn the retiring Bellows Creek coal plant into, you guessed it, a nuclear facility. In West Virginia, it's the same story. They've recently lifted their ban on developing nuclear energy, with Senator Shelley Moore Capito pushing to turn the many closing coal sites in the region into nuclear plants. And in Maryland, my home state, the Energy Administration has handed out grants to 2 energy firms to evaluate the benefits of repurposing coal-powered plants into nuclear facilities. In short, the mining communities, long abandoned by the liberal elites, are now on the verge of a heroic resurrection, a second coming that I believe will hand them massive prosperity. This is truly a rare win-win scenario for our whole country. Reports estimate that converting a coal plant to nuclear could save the plant owner $1 billion and reduce emissions by as much as 90%. Better still, these plants can use the existing workforce, earning wages that are typically 50% higher than what they're used to, while almost stimulating an estimated $275 million a year for these hard-hit, poverty-stricken communities. As these abandoned plants are converted to nuclear, I believe we're going to see the complete revitalization of the once powerful and proud coal belt of America. And it's all thanks to small modular reactors. Because for the first time ever, we will be able to generate nuclear power for a fraction of the cost and in a fraction of the time, and we'll be able to do it without having to spend billions of dollars on reactors that take decades to build. This is why I believe SMRs are the future of the energy industry in America. They're the only way to provide enough clean, carbon-free energy to meet the incredible power demands of artificial intelligence, electric cars, and blockchain technology. And that's why in 5, 10, or even 15 years from now, when we're looking back on the craze of the AI boom, the top investments won't be the company with the best artificial intelligence. Nope. The real investment winners will be the companies who master the SMR. And I'm not the only one who has made this connection. Both the private and the public sector are waking up to the fact that SMRs and nuclear energy are the only path forward, and people are pouring hundreds of millions into their development. The UK government has invested £215 million so far. France is investing €1 billion into SMR technology. Canada's infrastructure bank has committed almost $1 billion. The U.S. government is directing tens of billions towards the sector. And individual billionaires like Peter Thiel, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates have all been quietly investing in nuclear energy for years. Sam Altman, the poster boy for AI, just catapulted SMRs into the mainstream with the $500 million IPO of his small modular reactor startup, Oklo. Why? Well, as Sam Altman puts it, if the use of artificial intelligence scales up, it will demand a lot of energy. I don't see a way for us to get there without nuclear. That's why he not only serves as the chairman of Oklo, but also invested $375 million in Helion, another nuclear company that marked the biggest investment he's ever made. In addition to Oklo and Helion, millions are pouring into a number of other companies that are working on new breeds of advanced SMRs. GE Hitachi, Holtec, Kaios Power, NuScale Power, Terra Power, and X Energy. As this energy renaissance gathers pace, these firms are surging. However, I wouldn't recommend investing in any of these companies. While the upside potential could be exceptional, they are too volatile and too uncertain yet for my taste. You see, I'm an investor, not a speculator. And although huge returns can be made speculating, the risks are far too high, especially when, with a little patience, you can achieve similar returns over the long term with low risk. That's why I prefer to bet only on world-class, highly capital-efficient companies with big economic moats. And while I might be biased, I'd say my track record proves this is the best way to generate real wealth without taking a lot of risk. Identifying these companies is what I've done my entire career, like my early calls on Microsoft and Amazon and Nvidia and Shopify. Now, of course, I don't get everything right, but I do believe our track record speaks for itself. And when it comes to the advent of small nuclear reactors, there's only one company that meets my exacting criteria. This facility is where a new type of reactor is being built. This is the same type of microreactor that Sam Altman is attempting to build with his new company, Oklo, except this company has the first one in America. And what's most exciting is that this company isn't some speculative private startup trying to get off the ground. This is a publicly traded company with a pipeline of multi-billion-dollar nuclear contracts with the U.S. government, big pharma companies, and major utility providers. In doing so, this company has strategically locked in their future revenues for years and years to come, and I believe all but guaranteed their position as the dominant firm providing nuclear energy and small modular reactors to America's public and private sector. Why? Because they are already the sole manufacturer of nuclear reactors for U.S. military, aircraft carriers, and submarines. They are already one of only 2 providers licensed to store and process uranium for those reactors. And they have already established a lock on supplying the Navy with critical nuclear inputs and deliver almost all of the mechanical equipment for the Navy's nuclear platforms. But most importantly, they are already building microreactors for the U.S. military. And as the sole manufacturer of nuclear reactors for the military, I believe this company will become a fortress business. What's more, while the other nuclear companies like NuScale, TerraPower, and Oklo are subject to interest rates, investor sentiment, and a myriad of external forces, this company has their revenues already locked in and funded for years to come. And now that the first SMR has finally been approved for use by the U.S. government, these reactors are no longer hypothetical. They are becoming a reality. And I believe they're going to make nuclear energy the dominant form of clean energy in America in the next several years. In fact, I believe the emergence of these small nuclear reactors and microreactors in particular could be the single biggest development in the energy markets since fracking. What's more, as I've shown you today, all the evidence points to these SMRs playing an absolutely critical role in the future of artificial intelligence. But you don't have to take my word for this. You can confirm everything I've covered today for yourself by reviewing the details and disclosures link just below this video where I've listed all of my sources and data. As you've seen, I believe SMRs are the only viable energy source that can meet the incredible power demands of widespread AI in a clean, emission-free manner. And I believe this military-backed SMR manufacturer will be among the most important companies in the AI revolution, a company I believe everyone should know more about. That's why I want to give you my research firm's investigation into this company. Inside this private briefing, you'll discover everything you need to know about the nuclear revolution that I believe will not only fuel the AI and tech boom, but could also revive our entire country. You'll learn how nuclear energy works and why it is safer, cleaner, and more effective than any other form of energy we have on Earth. You'll get a detailed look at the history of SMRs and microreactors in particular. You'll understand how this new network of microreactors could fuel our insatiable thirst for energy for years and years to come. You'll see how one little-known company has come to be the sole supplier of nuclear reactors for the military. You'll discover why I believe nuclear energy is the keystone technology for the entire AI revolution. And of course, there's much more in the report. Typically, for access to my firm's research, you would have to subscribe, paying $1,425 per year. And while we have more than 10,000 subscribers from all over the world, we are aware that our work is priced out of reach for many people. That's fine. Our research is not for everyone, and we cater to a smaller, more elite group of readers. However, the story I've told you about today is so fundamentally important to our entire country that I believe everyone should have access to this information. Because now that we have a government-authorized technology that makes it possible to deliver nuclear energy to anyone, anywhere, at any time, the biggest problem with nuclear power has been solved. I believe the industry is about to see an unprecedented resurgence that could make early investors a fortune. It's why the world's billionaires are betting on nuclear. Jeff Bezos has just invested $130 million. Sam Altman has already invested $375 million. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are teaming up on a $1 billion project. Hubert Perotto, $248 million. And it's not just the private sector either. The Department of Defense has planned to invest $1.2 billion in nuclear energy, and they plan on investing another $5.5 billion in nuclear over the next decade. The forces driving nuclear energy forward are colossal, and I believe this could be one of the greatest economic trends of the next decade. I want to ensure that you're in on the forefront of it, and I don't want the price of my firm's expensive research to stop you from understanding and capitalizing on this trend. So while it's only our full subscribers who are going to get ongoing updates and our specific buy and sell recommendations around this technology and the companies involved, I want to give you the chance to get our research reports on these critical financial and technological trends without paying the full cost to become a member of my financial research advisory. Instead, you can get access to this information for just $1.99, and that's all you will ever have to pay. There are no ongoing fees, there's no annual subscriptions, nothing else. Plus, as you'll see in a moment, I'll also send you several special bonus reports that I think are essential for capitalizing on both AI and the U.S. energy sector. But first, I want to stress one point. My firm invests millions of dollars every year to bring our members the world's best financial and investment research. And giving away our work for so little is obviously not how we typically operate. In fact, I'm only authorizing this as I think the intersection of AI and nuclear energy could be among the most important financial trends of the next decade. That's why I suggest you take advantage of this special offer while it's still available. All you have to do is click the button below this video right now to get started. You'll be taken to a secure encrypted webpage where you can review everything that's waiting for you. On the next page, you'll also find the details of 2 additional special briefings I have set aside for you because I want you to know that the epic energy revival that is sweeping through America right now isn't just about nuclear. You see, while our new SMR nuclear network is being built out over the coming years, America will need to tap the enormous reserves of proven energy resources that it can access right now. As you've learned today, wind and solar can't meet our incredible energy demands. That's why, despite his renewables rhetoric and anti-fossil fuel posturing, the Biden administration is quietly turning on the tap of our vast supply of hydrocarbons. With Bloomberg reporting that crude oil and gas output have surged under Biden's watch, as his administration continues to ramp up domestic energy production, there are 2 companies I believe every American needs to know about. Bear in mind, these are not necessarily investment recommendations, but rather the companies we believe you should be aware of as America's energy resurgence gathers speed. The first is a company out of Pittsburgh. Over the last decade, this firm, which I bet you've never even heard of, has grown into becoming the largest producer of U.S. natural gas. I believe it could soon be the world's most important energy company. Let me say that again. A little-known Pittsburgh company could soon be one of the world's most powerful energy companies. And while that may seem hard to believe, it's the simple facts of the matter. If you take one thing from this presentation, remember my words. This company sits on a resource that's so big, it could eventually become the world's most important energy company. The company's growth over the last 3 years has been explosive. After a long period of exploration and drilling, it has been able to ramp up production and dramatically increase its margins through enormous scale. It has also made a number of brilliant acquisitions, gaining additional reserves and pipelines. Even in today's oversupplied natural gas market, with prices that are trading roughly 40% below the 10-year average price, this company, which I call the gods of gas, continues to find new ways to win. And right now, they're positioning themselves to emerge stronger than ever on the other side of this temporarily oversupplied market. And as the demand for natural gas skyrockets due to the growing energy needs of AI and electric vehicles, I believe the gods of gas will soon emerge as one of the world's most important new energy companies, and yet today, almost nobody knows its name. However, it won't only be America's vast natural gas resources that supplies our energy needs as we build out the new nuclear network. In the meantime, the elites are going to have to hold their noses as they're forced to turn back to their most despised hydrocarbon, coal. As you discovered today, many of America's shuttered coal plants will soon get a second life as homes for small modular reactors. And while this transition happens, the few remaining mines still in operation will soon be running on overdrive. It happened during the energy crisis of the 70s when America went rushing back to dirty coal in an attempt to lower costs and rising inflation. And there is one coal company that you must know about. Investing in this coal company will not endear you to your liberal friends, but this is one of the best businesses in America, and I believe it's trading for a fraction of its actual real value. This company is generating $500 million a year in annual free cash flows. It's got a gleaming balance sheet, recently eliminating 75% of its debt. As the world is forced to temporarily turn back to coal, I believe this hated company is going to emerge from the ashes to be one of the most critical companies in the entire country. That's why I want to send you my firm's full research report on this particular dirty energy producer. It's called Coal's Comeback, and you can get this report along with the gods of gas and the AI Keystone by clicking the button below the video player now. Clicking the button does not obligate you to anything. It simply takes you to a page with a full recap of everything I've covered in today's presentation and the specific terms of this offer. In addition to your research reports, when you accept today's invitation, you'll also be added to the complimentary version of my financial advisory, which is called The Big Secret on Wall Street. As a complimentary subscriber, you'll receive an email from me every Friday with a version of my newsletter, The Big Secret on Wall Street. That means each week you're going to get a new briefing that explores what I believe is the most important yet overlooked idea in the markets. And I'm pretty sure that even though you're getting a complimentary copy, our work will be better than anything that you actually have to pay for. You see, outside of research teams inside hedge funds, major banks, and private equity firms, there is nobody out there producing research like we do. My team includes Wall Street legends like Marty Fritzen and Tom Carroll. We also have successful former hedge fund managers. We have company founders, and we even have a former Fortune 100 consultant. You'll get all of our work sent directly to you for as long as you want when you accept today's special offer. Of course, if you choose to upgrade to our paid membership of The Big Secret on Wall Street, we'd love to have you. But subscribing is completely optional, and you don't have to worry about us bombarding you with endless marketing or solicitations. We rarely advertise, and we will only send you an email every Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. That's it. You won't get anything else from us. You see, we know the quality of our work is so good that investors will choose to upgrade and subscribe when they see our work. And if it's not for you, then there's no hard feelings. We're still happy to serve you and the free complimentary version of our research for as long as you'd like to receive it. To take advantage of all of this, simply click the button below this page now. Review everything that's waiting for you, and if you're ready, follow the steps to get started. Before I leave you today, I just wanted to say one last thing. I know that our country is in a tough spot right now. There's conflict and division everywhere you look, and there are very good reasons to be worried about our mishandling of our nation's finances. That's why so many people feel like things will never get better. Maybe you felt that way too. But I say, never bet against America. We are the greatest country on earth. We have more unlocked energy potential than anyone else on the planet, and that means our future prosperity is right here in our own hands. The intersection of America's energy revival and the emergence of artificial intelligence is something that can benefit you directly. And for just $199, you're going to get my firm's best research into the powerful resurrection that is sweeping across the country with the 3 special reports that I have handpicked for you today. Simply click the button below right now to get started, and I'll see you inside.